She handed me a $2 lottery ticket with a smirk. 1 week earlier, she had stolen $13,000 from my account to buy her father-in-law a cruise. I had no idea my own daughter was about to teach me the most expensive lesson about family I would ever learn. My name is Robert Thompson. I am 68 years old, and I spent 42 years as an auto mechanic here in Columbus, Ohio. I raised my daughter Margaret after my wife passed when Margaret was just 16. I worked 60-hour weeks, double shifts at the garage, sometimes falling asleep in my chair because I was too tired to make it to bed. But I made sure Margaret got through college without a single student loan. I thought that meant something. I thought I had earned her respect. Father's Day started normal enough. I set up my small dining room on Maple Street with the good dishes, the ones my wife and I got as a wedding gift back in 1976. My sister Dorothy arrived first with her son, Thomas, and his wife. Then Margaret pulled up in that black BMW her husband Charles drives. My grandson Billy climbed out looking uncomfortable in his dress shirt, the way 16-year-old boys do when they would rather be anywhere else. "Dad, here's your gift." Margaret's voice cut through the conversation as she tossed something across my dining table. I caught it. A lottery ticket. The paper felt cheap in my weathered hands. $2. The same amount I used to give her for ice cream when she was 7, back when that small gesture could light up her entire face. "If you win, remember half is mine," she said, and laughed. That particular laugh I had been hearing more often lately. Sharp. Dismissive. Nothing like the little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap during bedtime stories. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. "Very thoughtful, sweetheart. This is—" "Oh, but wait," Margaret interrupted, her voice rising with theatrical excitement. "I have not given Charles's father his gift yet." She reached behind her chair and produced an elegant gift box. The kind that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The ribbon alone looked expensive, shimmering under my simple dining room light. My daughter's father-in-law, Richard Morrison, straightened in his chair. His perfectly pressed shirt and confident posture belonged to a man who had never worried about money a day in his life. Margaret lifted cruise tickets from their silk-lined box like she was presenting crown jewels. "These cost $13,000. Richard deserves the best for everything he has done for our family." The weight of that $2 lottery ticket in my hand suddenly felt microscopic. I watched Richard examine the tickets with satisfaction, his manicured fingers tracing the gold embossing. "Now this is what I call a proper gift, Margaret," Richard said. His eyes met mine across the table. "Your father taught you well." The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Dorothy cleared her throat. Thomas suddenly found his plate fascinating. Even Billy looked up from his phone with confusion on his young face. Margaret glanced at Richard, and something passed between them. A look that made my chest tighten. "Dad always said actions speak louder than words," Margaret replied. "Some people show love through grand gestures. Others," she gestured vaguely at my lottery ticket. I held that $2 piece of paper steady, though my hands wanted to shake. Around my table, the people I had invited into my home for Father's Day shifted uncomfortably. The afternoon sunlight streaming through my windows highlighted every awkward expression, every averted gaze. Richard fanned out the cruise tickets like playing cards. "These represent 2 weeks in the Mediterranean. First-class accommodations. Private balcony. All meals included. The kind of experience that creates lasting memories." I nodded. My throat tight. "Sounds wonderful." "It is wonderful," Margaret agreed. "Richard has always been there for us financially. He helped us buy our house, paid for Billy's private school, even covers our country club membership. He has earned something special. I remembered the double shifts. The overtime hours. The nights I fell asleep too exhausted to undress. All of it to give Margaret. Opportunities I never had. And here she sat, explaining why her father-in-law deserved $13,000 while I deserved $2. Well, I said quietly, I hope you both enjoy the cruise. Richard slipped the tickets back into their box with ceremonial care. This is how families should treat each other. With generosity and respect. I looked down at the lottery ticket in my hands. $2. A joke. But I would not give Margaret the satisfaction of seeing how deeply she had cut me. I appreciate the thought, Kara. Really. The dinner continued, but the damage was done. And I had no idea that this worthless piece of paper would soon reveal the true cost of my daughter's betrayal. My morning coffee turned cold when I saw it. Premium travel services. $13,006.47. Charged to my account 1 week before Father's Day. 3 days had passed. Since that humiliating dinner. 3 quiet days of trying to forget the look on Margaret's face when she compared me to Richard Morrison. I was sitting at my kitchen table doing what I had done every month for 40 years. Reviewing my bank statement line by line. Utility bills. Grocery store purchases. The modest amount I had spent on Father's Day dinner ingredients. Everything accounted for. Everything expected. Until I reached that line. I blinked, certain I had misread. The amount stared back at me, unchanged. My hand started trembling as I cross-referenced the date with my calendar. Thursday. 1 week before Father's Day. I had been nowhere near a travel agency that day. Then it hit me like a punch to the gut. Margaret still had authorized access to my account. I had set it up years ago when her mother died, just in case of emergencies. In case something happened to me and she needed to handle my affairs. I had forgotten about it completely. Trusted her completely. My phone felt heavy as I dialed her number. Each ring echoed in my quiet kitchen, mixing with the sound of my own heartbeat. Hello, Dad. Her voice carried that particular tone of bored politeness she used when I interrupted her busy life. Margaret, I am looking at my bank statement. My voice shook despite my efforts to stay calm. There is a charge for over $13,000 from premium travel services. Silence. Then a laugh. Light. Dismissive. Oh, that. I bought Richard his cruise. He deserves something nice for once. The casualness of it. The complete lack of shame. I felt something break inside my chest. You took $13,000 from my account without asking. I did not take anything, Dad. Her tone shifted. Becoming defensive. I used family money for a family purpose. You would not have spent it anyway. It is just sitting there. Family money. My life savings. 42 years of careful budgeting and sacrifice. Just sitting there. Margaret, that is theft. The word caught in my throat. You stole from me. It is not stealing when it is family money, she snapped. Richard has always been there for us financially. He helped us when we needed it. This is just returning the favor. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white. I am your father, Margaret. I raised you. I worked double shifts to pay for your college. Your entire education. And Richard helped us both move beyond that, she interrupted. He has shown us what real success looks like. What it means to be generous. To live well. To give meaningful gifts instead of, she paused. I could hear the dismissive sigh. Instead of lottery tickets. The cruelty in her voice left me speechless. This was my daughter. The little girl. who used to fall asleep in my lap while I read her bedtime stories. The teenager who cried on my shoulder when her mother died. The young woman who once called me her hero. "Dad, are you there?" "I am here," I whispered. "Look, I know you are upset, but think about it rationally. Richard earned this. He is successful. He has contributed to our family's well-being. He deserves recognition for everything he has done. And what about everything I have done?" Silence. When she spoke again, her voice was colder than I had ever heard it. "You did what fathers are supposed to do. Richard went above and beyond." The line went dead with a sharp click. I sat in my kitchen, the dial tone echoing like a funeral dirge. The same hands that had held her as a baby, taught her to ride a bike, applauded at her graduation, now shook with rage and heartbreak. I walked to the counter and grabbed that lottery ticket. The $2 joke she had thrown at me like scraps to a dog. Even this pathetic gift had been bought with my own stolen money. The irony was so perfect it almost made me laugh. Instead, I crumpled the ticket in my fist and marched to the trash can. The paper made a satisfying thud as it hit the bottom, joining the coffee grounds and empty cans. I needed air. Needed to move. Needed to be anywhere but in this place where my daughter's betrayal echoed off every surface. I woke up to 15 missed calls and my face plastered across Facebook as a thief. But that morning started with something I should have done years ago. Taking control. The next day, I called First National Bank the moment they opened. My hands felt steady for the first time in 24 hours. First National Bank Customer Service. "This is Rebecca. How can I help you?" "I need to revoke authorized access to my account. Someone has been making unauthorized purchases." The conversation was surprisingly simple. Rebecca's voice carried professional sympathy as she walked me through the process. Within 15 minutes, Margaret's access was terminated. New security measures were in place. I felt something I had not experienced in years. The solid certainty of protecting myself. "Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mr. Thompson?" "No, that covers it. Thank you." I hung up and looked around my kitchen with new eyes. The modest space felt different. Not shabby, but honest. Clean. Mine. Margaret's phone call came exactly 2 hours later. "Dad, what the hell did you do to my card?" Her voice exploded through the receiver before I could even say hello. "It was declined at Nordstrom. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? I removed your access after you stole $13,000 from my account. I did not steal anything." Her voice pitched higher, that familiar tone she had used as a teenager when caught in a lie. "That money was for family. For someone who actually contributes to this family. You did not ask permission, Margaret. You just took it." Through the phone, I could hear the rustle of shopping bags, the distant hum of mall traffic. She was calling me from the parking lot of whatever expensive store had just humiliated her. I was standing there with an $800 handbag, Dad. $800. The sales associate ran my card 3 times before telling me in front of everyone that it was declined. Other customers were staring. I looked like some kind of common person who cannot afford her purchases. The way she said common person made my chest tighten. As if being unable to afford $800 handbags was some kind of moral failing. "I am sorry you were embarrassed. But that does not change what you did." "What I did?" She laughed. But there was no humor in it. "What I did was treat Richard with the respect he deserves. Something you have never learned to do. Margaret, I raised you. I worked 60-hour weeks to put you through college. I thought that counted for something. And Richard helped us move beyond all that," she snapped. He has shown us what real success looks like. What it means to be generous. Not sitting on piles of money like some kind of miser. The accusation hit like a physical blow. 40 years of careful saving. Choosing generic groceries and driving used cars so I could provide for my family. And this was how she saw it. You are going to regret this decision, Dad. Her voice dropped to a tone I had never heard before. Cold. Calculating. You think you can humiliate me publicly and just walk away? You think there won't be consequences? Margaret, I am not trying to hurt you. I am protecting myself. No, you are being selfish and petty and cruel. Each word landed with deliberate precision. But I will not let you get away with it. I have friends, Dad. People who matter in this community. People who understand what family loyalty actually means. The line went dead with a sharp click. That evening, I tried to distract myself with television. But my tablet sat on the coffee table, and curiosity finally won. I opened Facebook and scrolled through the usual collection of neighbor updates and distant cousin vacation photos. Then I saw it. Margaret's post sat at the top of my feed, accompanied by a photo of her looking devastated, eyes red-rimmed with carefully applied tears. Heartbroken to write this, but I need support. My father has decided to cut off my access to what has always been our family money. After years of me being there for him, helping him through Mom's death, managing his affairs when he could not, he suddenly decided I am not worthy of his trust. All because I bought Richard, who has been more of a father figure to our family than anyone, a gift with money that was sitting unused. I never thought my own father could be so selfish and cruel. Honestly questioning everything I thought I knew about the man who raised me. The post had 47 likes and 23 comments. I scrolled through them, my stomach churning with each sympathetic response. Oh my God, Margaret, I am so sorry. Older people can become so paranoid about money. Your father should be grateful to have such a caring daughter. This is awful. Richard is such a wonderful man. He deserved that gift. Your dad is being ridiculous. Family money should benefit the whole family. Hang in there, honey. Charles had coordinated his own campaign on LinkedIn. His post carried the weight of professional credibility. Witnessing financial abuse is devastating, but reverse elder abuse when elderly individuals become obsessed with money to the point of betraying their children's trust equally damages families. My wife is heartbroken by her father's greed. This behavior destroys families and communities. His professional network shared it. Colleagues from his investment firm added serious commentary about family values and financial ethics. I closed the tablet and sat in my darkened living room. My neighbors, my community, people I had known for 30 years, all saw me as the villain in Margaret's carefully crafted story. The lottery ticket remained in my kitchen trash, forgotten among the coffee grounds. Worth $2. Worth nothing. But my reputation? That was being destroyed for free. I almost changed the channel. Then I heard the numbers that would change my life forever. The social media nightmare had been consuming my thoughts for 3 days straight. Neighbors who suddenly avoided eye contact. The cashier at the grocery store who looked at me with suspicion. Margaret's narrative was spreading, and I was losing the battle for my own reputation without even fighting. That evening, I sat in my recliner, remote control resting in my palm as I surfed channels with no particular purpose. Click. A cooking show featuring complicated French pastries. Click. A sitcom from the 90s. Click. Local news discussing city budget issues. Click. The state lottery drawing program. Good evening, Ohio. Welcome to tonight's Powerball drawing, where we have a rollover jackpot of $120 million. I almost moved on, but something made me pause. Maybe it was the absurdity of it all. Here I was, being called a greedy miser for protecting my modest savings, while someone was about to win more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Tonight's winning numbers are, the announcer's voice took on that ceremonial tone reserved for momentous occasions. 7, 14, 23, 35, 42, and the Powerball is 18. My hand froze on the remote. Those numbers sounded familiar. Disturbingly familiar. I grabbed a pen from the coffee table and scribbled them on the back of an envelope as the announcer repeated them. 7, 14, 23, 35, 42. Powerball 18. My heart began racing before my mind fully caught up. I knew those numbers. I had seen them recently. Stared at them long enough to memorize them in a moment of anger and irony. The lottery ticket. The crumpled piece of paper I had thrown away in disgust 3 days ago. I stumbled to the kitchen, my legs unsteady beneath me. The trash can sat innocently by the counter, filled with the detritus of solitary living. Coffee grounds. Empty cans. Food scraps. Banana peels. I plunged my hands into the mess, digging through soggy paper towels and yesterday's leftovers, searching for a small piece of paper that might change everything. My fingers found it near the bottom, stuck to the side of a yogurt container. The lottery ticket. Stained with coffee grounds and wrinkled beyond recognition, but still readable. I carried it to the kitchen sink and carefully rinsed off the worst of the debris, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. I unfolded it under the light. 7. 14. 23. 35. 42. Powerball 18. Perfect. Every single number matched. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair, staring at the damaged ticket in disbelief. The $2 joke that Margaret had thrown at me like scraps to a dog. The gift she had bought with my own stolen money and then claimed half ownership of. The piece of garbage I had discarded in anger. It was worth $120 million. I called the lottery hotline with trembling fingers, following the automated prompts to verify the winning numbers. The mechanical voice confirmed what I already knew. The winning Powerball numbers for tonight's drawing are 7, 14, 23, 35, 42. With Powerball 18. The jackpot amount is $120 million. I hung up and looked around my modest kitchen with new eyes. The outdated appliances. The worn linoleum floor. The simple table where I ate my solitary meals. All of it suddenly felt surreal, like a movie set about to be struck and replaced with something entirely different. The lottery ticket lay on my table, still damp from its rescue, still creased with the force of my angry disposal. Margaret's voice echoed in my memory, as clear as if she were standing right there. If you win, remember half is mine. I barely slept that night. By morning, I had convinced myself it had to be a mistake. But the numbers remained the same. And the ticket, despite its journey through my garbage, was undeniably real. I had one phone call to make. The phone call came from the last person I expected. My son-in-law's uncle. And he was about to become my most powerful ally. The Ohio Lottery Commission had started their 48-hour verification process. 2 days of authentication, security checks, and legal documentation before I could officially claim $120 million. 2 days of waiting while Margaret's social media campaign continued destroying my reputation one post at a time. Then my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Mr. Thompson, this is William Morrison. Richard Morrison's older brother. The voice was measured, professional, carrying the kind of authority that came from years of boardroom negotiations. I believe we need to talk. I gripped the receiver tighter. My mind racing. I am not sure what there is to discuss, Mr. Morrison. There is quite a lot, actually. A pause, then. Could we meet this morning? Say Murphy's Diner on 5th Street. In an hour? Murphy's Diner was a modest family restaurant where I sometimes went for their Saturday morning special. The kind of place where Richard and Charles would never be caught dead. May I ask what this is about? The lottery ticket, William said simply. And what I witnessed on Father's Day. My heart hammered against my ribs. You were there. I was indeed. 1 hour, Mr. Thompson. The line went dead, leaving me staring at the phone in confusion. Murphy's Diner occupied a corner lot that had hosted restaurants for 50 years. Red vinyl booths. Checkered linoleum floors. The kind of coffee that could wake the dead. I spotted William immediately. His tailored navy suit stood out among the modest breakfast crowd like a peacock among sparrows. He rose when he saw me, extending a well-manicured hand. Mr. Thompson. Thank you for coming. We slid into a booth near the window where morning light illuminated the deep lines around William's eyes. The waitress, Dolores, who had been serving coffee here since I was in my 40s, poured 2 cups without being asked. I witnessed the entire gift exchange on Father's Day. William began without preamble. Every word. Every gesture. Your daughter handed you that lottery ticket and explicitly called it your Father's Day gift. I studied his face, searching for signs of deception. She is claiming we had an agreement about splitting any winnings. William's expression hardened. That is simply not what happened. I watched her throw that ticket across the table with a dismissive laugh. There was no negotiation. No agreement. No verbal contract. It was a gift, pure and simple. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through Facebook with practiced efficiency. What my nephew and his wife are doing is unconscionable. They are destroying your reputation with lies. You are Richard's brother, I said carefully. Why would you go against your own family? William's laugh was bitter. Because I raised Richard to have integrity, and he forgot everything I taught him. This lottery situation has revealed something about both him and Charles that deeply disappoints me. He showed me his phone screen where he had begun typing a lengthy Facebook post. I am going to set the record straight. My name carries weight in this community, Mr. Thompson. People know I do not lie about business matters. And this is exactly that. A matter of legal ownership and ethical behavior. I read over his shoulder as he refined his statement. As a witness to the Father's Day gathering at Robert Thompson's home, I feel compelled to address the current social media controversy. I personally observed Margaret Johnson purchase and present a lottery ticket to her father as a Father's Day gift. There was no negotiation. No agreement about sharing winnings. No conditions attached to the gift. Mr. Thompson is the rightful owner of that ticket and any winnings it may have generated. The current social media campaign against him is based on false information. I cannot remain silent while a good man's reputation is destroyed by members of my own family. You do not have to do this, I said quietly. Yes, I do. William's finger hovered over the post button. My family has forgotten what it means to be people of honor. Perhaps public truth will remind them. He posted the statement. Immediately, his phone began buzzing with notifications. Within minutes, comments appeared from people in Columbus's business community. Colleagues who knew Williams' reputation for honesty and fair dealing. This changes everything, I breathed, watching the tide of public opinion shift in real time. William pocketed his phone and looked at me directly. Mr. Thompson, I built my business on integrity. I cannot watch my family destroy that legacy with lies and manipulation. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, drinking coffee while normal People went about their Saturday morning routines. The truth has a funny way of surfacing, William said finally. Sometimes it just needs the right person to speak it. We shook hands outside the diner, his grip firm and reassuring. As he walked toward his black Mercedes, I remained by my modest sedan, feeling something I had not experienced in weeks. Hope. The lottery commission offered me a choice. Private meeting or public ceremony. I chose to face them all. Because the truth deserves witnesses. 2 weeks after finding that ticket in my trash, the phone call finally came. Mr. Thompson, this is Janet Chen from the Ohio Lottery Commission. Your verification process is complete. We would like to invite you to our formal check presentation. Ceremony tomorrow morning. A ceremony? I asked, still processing the magnitude of what was happening. We offer winners the choice between a private meeting and a public presentation. Given the recent interest in your case, we thought you might prefer the transparency of a public ceremony. I thought about Margaret's social media campaign. About the whispered conversations that followed me through grocery stores. About the neighbors who no longer made eye contact. Yes, I said firmly. I would like the public ceremony. Excellent. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at our Columbus headquarters. There will be media present, so dress appropriately. And Mr. Thompson? Congratulations. This is going to change your life. That evening, I laid out my best clothes. A navy blue suit I had bought for my wife's funeral 8 years ago. A white shirt that still had the crisp edges of professional pressing. And the tie Margaret had given me for Christmas 5 years back, before everything changed. The irony was not lost on me. The lottery headquarters buzzed with activity when I arrived. Television crews adjusted lighting equipment. Photographers tested angles. Lottery officials bustled around with clipboards and official documents. I felt like an actor who had wandered onto someone else's movie set. Mr. Thompson. Janet Chen approached with a warm smile. Ready to become a millionaire? The actual ceremony was surprisingly formal. A backdrop featuring the Ohio Lottery logo. An oversized check that took 2 people to hold. And enough camera flashes to light up a stadium. When Janet announced me as the winner of the $120 million jackpot, the applause felt surreal. This is certainly unexpected. I said into the microphone, my voice carrying better than I had hoped. I plan to use this blessing responsibly. To help others. To pursue dreams I had put aside. And to live with dignity. The questions from reporters came rapidly. How did it feel to win? What were my plans? Would I quit working? I answered as honestly as I could, focusing on gratitude and responsibility rather than the family drama that had brought me here. Then, through the crowd of media personnel, I saw them. Margaret and Charles pushed through the gathering, her face flushed with determination and desperation. She wore a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Stop! She called out, her voice cutting through the professional atmosphere like a knife. That is my ticket. We had an agreement. Security personnel moved immediately, but Margaret's voice carried over their intervention. Everyone here needs to know that ticket was mine. He is stealing from his own daughter. The cameras, which had been focused on me and the ceremonial check, swiveled toward the commotion. This was the kind of drama that television news lived for. Ma'am, you need to step back. From the ceremony area, a security guard said firmly but politely. I looked directly at Margaret, feeling calmer than I had in months. Margaret, please do not do this here. But she was beyond reason, gesticulating wildly as Charles tried to pull her back. I bought that ticket. I said half was mine. Everyone at that dinner heard me. A reporter thrust a microphone toward me. Mr. Thompson, can you comment on this family dispute? The ticket was a Father's Day gift from my daughter, I said clearly, my voice steady despite the chaos unfolding nearby. Mr. William Morrison, who was present at the dinner, has already confirmed the circumstances of that gift. That is all there is to it. What do you plan to do with the money? Another reporter asked. I thought about Margaret screaming in the background. About the months of manipulation and betrayal. About the years I had spent enabling her worst impulses out of misguided love. I plan to help others who deserve it, I said. People working hard to provide for their families. I want to start a business I have dreamed about for years. And I intend to live with the kind of integrity that makes a person worthy of good fortune. Arguing with each other. I could see Charles's gestures growing more animated, his voice rising to match hers. The perfect couple, fracturing under the weight of their own greed. I walked to my car. Carrying the ceremonial check and official documentation that made me one of the wealthiest men in Ohio. As I drove away, I glimpsed them in my rearview mirror, still arguing beside their expensive car. For the first time in months, I smiled. Justice, public and complete. She came back the next morning. But this time with tears instead of threats. I had seen this performance before. I was sitting at my kitchen table with the newspaper spread before me. Reading about my lottery win in black and white print, when I heard a car door slam outside. Through my window, I saw Margaret walking up my driveway. But her demeanor was completely different from yesterday's aggressive confrontation. She moved slowly, almost hesitantly, her shoulders slumped in defeat. Instead of her usual bold entrance, she knocked softly on my door. 3 gentle taps that sounded almost apologetic. I opened the door to find her eyes red-rimmed and puffy, her designer clothes wrinkled as if she had slept in them. Dad, could we talk? Please. My paternal instinct stirred despite everything that had happened. Come in, Margaret. She followed me to the living room, perching on the edge of the couch like a bird ready to take flight. Her hands twisted in her lap as she looked around the modest space that had once been her childhood home. I am so sorry about yesterday, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. I was just overwhelmed and scared. I was not thinking clearly. The tears came then, streaming down her cheeks with practiced precision. Charles has been pressuring me so much about money lately. Our finances they are worse than I told anyone. I did not know who else to turn to. I settled into my recliner, maintaining careful distance between us. What kind of financial trouble? Margaret? We are about to lose our house. Her voice broke on the words. The mortgage payments. The credit cards. Charles's business. It is all falling apart. We owe almost $400,000, and the bank is starting foreclosure proceedings. She painted a picture of sleepless nights, panic attacks, desperate attempts to keep up appearances while their world crumbled. Charles's investment firm was failing, she claimed. Losing clients. Hemorrhaging money. The country club membership they could not afford to cancel. The private school tuition for Billy that was draining their resources. I was too embarrassed to ask for help before, she continued, wiping her eyes with a tissue. You know how proud Charles is. He would die if he knew I was here begging my father for money. I listened to her performance. And it was a performance, I realized with painful clarity. The same technique she had used as a teenager when she wanted something. The tears. The helpless damsel routine. The appeals to my protective instincts. You have always been there for me before, she said, reaching across the space between us to touch my hand. I just need help one more time. Just enough to save our house and get back on our feet. How much, Margaret? $2 million would solve everything. She said it quickly, as if she had rehearsed the number. It sounds like a lot, but it is nothing compared to what you won. You would still have over 100 million left. The simplicity of her request was breathtaking. $2 million. A sum that would have represented 40 years of my pre-lottery income. Delivered as casually as asking to borrow $20 for gas. Margaret, I said gently, I have heard these same promises before. Her expression shifted slightly, confusion flickering across her features. What do you mean? You stole $13,000 from my account without asking. You publicly humiliated me. On social media. You tried to take my lottery ticket by force. I kept my voice calm, factual. Now you want me to reward that behavior by giving you $2 million. This is different. The tears came faster now, more desperate. I was wrong before. I admit that. But we are talking about losing everything, Dad. Our house. Our life. Billy's education. You need to learn to solve your own problems. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Margaret's face transformed. The mask of vulnerability slipping to reveal something harder underneath. You are really going to do this? She asked, her voice taking on a familiar edge. You are going to let your own daughter lose her house while you sit on $100 million. I love you, Margaret. But I will not enable your choices anymore. She stood abruptly, pacing to the window and back. Fine. Fine. But do not expect to be part of Billy's life going forward. Do not expect Christmas visits or family dinners or phone calls when he graduates high school. The threats came faster now. Each one designed to hit my deepest fears about isolation and family loss. No grandchildren at my funeral. No relationship with future generations. A lonely old man dying alone because he was too selfish to help his only child. If that is your choice, I said quietly, I will have to accept it. The finality in my voice seemed to shock her. She stared at me for a long moment, perhaps recognizing that her manipulation toolkit had finally met its match. You have changed, she said, her voice cold with disappointment. Money has made you cruel. No, Margaret. Money has made me free. She stormed out without another word, her footsteps echoing on my front walkway as she marched to her car. I stood at my front window, watching her drive away with visible anger. Her tires squealing as she peeled out of my driveway. I turned away from the window and looked around my quiet home, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. The little girl who used to fall asleep in my lap reading stories was gone. Replaced by someone I did not recognize and could not save. But for the first time in years, my home felt truly peaceful. I blocked her number, packed my life into boxes, and drove toward freedom. Some bridges, once burned, are not meant to be rebuilt. 3 months later, I stood in my empty living room, holding my phone as movers loaded the last boxes into their truck. I scrolled to Margaret's contact and selected block this number. The drive to Dayton took 2 hours through rolling Ohio. Countryside. Green fields. Small towns. Space to breathe. In this new city, I would be simply Robert Thompson, new resident. Not the lottery winner from the news. Not the father destroyed by his daughter's greed. Just a man starting over. My house sat on a quiet street called Oakwood Avenue, 3 hours from Columbus. Far enough that unexpected visits would require real commitment. Henderson's classic auto restoration had been for sale for 6 months when I walked through the shop. The moment I inhaled that familiar scent of motor oil and polish, I knew I had found my purpose. You sure you want this much work? Asked Tom Henderson, gesturing at project cars filling his bays. Most folks your age are thinking about slowing down. 67 Mustang's fender, feeling the cool metal beneath my palm. I am just getting started. Within a week, the sign read Thompson's Classic Restorations. I hired 3 local mechanics. Good men who took pride in their work. James, 35. Luis, 42. Kevin, 28. Together, we brought dead dreams back to life. I also established the Supporting Single Fathers Foundation, remembering my own struggles after my wife died. The sleepless nights. The impossible choices between work and parenting. The loneliness of raising a child alone. Evenings in Dayton were peaceful. I could walk to the corner market without whispered conversations following me. The local diner served coffee without gossip about my personal life. Settling in okay? Asked Helen. My neighbor, bringing homemade cookies one Thursday evening. Neighborhood's quiet, but we look out for each other. Quiet is exactly what I hoped for, I told her. The shop became my sanctuary. Working alongside younger mechanics, I rediscovered the satisfaction of solving problems with my hands rather than my checkbook. We restored a 1955 Chevrolet to mint condition. When the owner saw it, he wept. I understood completely. Some things are worth more than money. I thought about Margaret sometimes, but without the sharp pain that used to accompany her memory. The anger had faded into something closer to acceptance. She had made her choices. I had made mine. My phone rang occasionally with unknown numbers I suspected were her, but I let them go to voicemail. Some conversations are not worth having. On a Thursday evening in September, I locked up the shop after completing a 1969 Camaro restoration. Driving home, I passed the community center where my foundation's plaque read, "Supporting strong families through tough times." I parked my truck and looked up at the emerging stars. Somewhere out there, Margaret lived with the consequences of her choices. But what I could control was right here. Building something meaningful. Helping people who deserved it. Creating value with my own 2 hands. Every restored car was a vote for craftsmanship. Every foundation grant was a vote for character over connections. Every quiet evening was a vote for peace over drama. The lottery ticket hung framed in my office now. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Sometimes the most valuable gifts come disguised as garbage. And sometimes the most necessary lessons come wrapped in pain. I had found something Margaret would never understand. Peace. And that was the real jackpot. Robert's story teaches us something folks my age already know deep in our bones. Family is not about blood. It is about respect. For 68 years, Robert believed that sacrifice equaled love. That working himself to exhaustion proved his worth as a father. But Margaret taught him a harder truth. You cannot buy respect with sacrifice. You cannot earn dignity by enabling bad behavior. And sometimes, the people who should love you most are the ones who will hurt you deepest. That $2 lottery ticket was never about the money. It was about recognizing his own value. About understanding that a man who works honest his whole life deserves better than being treated like a bank account with legs. Robert lost his daughter, but he found himself. He traded a toxic relationship for peace. Manipulation for integrity. And in doing so, he discovered what real wealth looks like. It is not the $120 million. It is waking up in a home where you are not being used. Working in a shop where your effort matters. Helping people who appreciate the help. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family and self-respect? Have you ever been taken advantage of by someone you loved? Drop your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else find the courage to stand up for themselves. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe to John's Revenge Stories for more tales of people who refuse to be victims. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to protect yourself, even from family. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge is not getting even. It is getting free. Remember, you taught your children everything they know. But you do not owe them everything you have. Thank you for watching. And remember, cold justice is not about cruelty. It is about clarity. See you in the next story.